Hi everyone, my name is Hannah Fox and I'm a customer support specialist here at ProSymmetry, and today I'll be covering the version 9.3 release preview. So the first thing I want to cover is how to get version 9.3. Version 9.3 is available for those with premium support to upgrade their dev environments now. Customers without premium support will be able to upgrade soon, and Tempus administrators will receive email updates on the release schedule. We are changing our internal process on how we manage upgrades, so please reach out to support@prosymmetry.com to schedule your upgrades. Additionally, if you have any specific questions about version 9.3, also reach out to support@prosymmetry.com. There is no cost to upgrade, and more detailed release notes are available to download in the Tempus Resource Help Center. One of the features that we are introducing in 9.3 is allocation thresholds. Allocation thresholds are based on resources capacity for individual resources. When resources are configured, this will make it so they will not be able to be over-allocated within the single project allocation screen and the bulk project allocation flat grid screen. Let's walk through an example within Tempus. To configure the allocation thresholds, there are a couple settings that needs to be enabled. Within admin settings, the administrators can come into general settings, go to unit settings, and then at the very bottom, there's an enable resource threshold validation setting. This is where the administrator can choose which data set they would like these validations to show, either the allocation or the demand data set. Additionally, they can also choose which capacity they would like to use for the caps. So they can either choose base capacity or net capacity. So I'm going to choose net capacity and in the allocation data set and hit save. The next option they need to enable is within resource management. So if I go back to homepage, go to resource management, there's now a new column that's called enable threshold. This is a Boolean field that when set to yes will now enable the threshold for those resources. So if I want to, for example, come in here and choose Audrey Clarkson, I can choose yes, and now they will not be able to be allocated over their net capacity based on the settings. So if I go into the bulk project allocation flat grid screen, I can choose Audrey here, and you can see that I brought in my net availability and allocation percentage to see that information. But if I wanted to say 120 here instead of 100, I now should get this message saying that it's been exceeded, and it has reverted the information here as well. I want to cover is what if. Team resources are now available in what if. Bulk select is now available in the Gantt chart to exclude or include and lock projects in bulk. We've added a project count within the Gantt chart to let the users know how many projects are within the Gantt chart. The Gantt chart can now be exported to Excel. Sorting is now available within Delta mode, and year is now available to view within what if in the lower grids. Let's walk through some of these within Tempus. First thing I want to mention in 9.3 and what if are these checkboxes here in your Gantt chart. These will allow you to bulk select your projects to either exclude them or lock them all in bulk. So if I click lock here, you'll see these are all been locked. You can also unlock them in bulk. And what a good use case could be for this as well is that you can select all your projects, choose to exclude all of them from the model, and then you can start from scratch to see which projects you want to include into your portfolio. Another thing that we've added in here is this count here for your projects that are in your Gantt chart. As you keep selecting more to include them, that count will update depending on how many are in your Gantt chart. Additionally, we have added an Excel export option here for your Gantt chart. You can download this and open it within Excel. And here you'll see the project names and any columns you have within that view as well. The gray ones are the ones excluded, and the blue ones are your included projects. Additionally, we have added in the Delta views optional sorting, so you can click your before or after to sort those columns. We have also added the year mode for every single lower grid area. So if you wanted to view by year, you can now do so. Additionally, in your impact assessment grid, we have added different types of sorting. So you can choose which one will be your primary and then your secondary column to sort on. Next, we have added your team resources into the what if areas. So you can now view them within all the grids, including lower and your upper grids as well. Another feature we have in 9.3 is time phase partial resource request approvals. Now within pending resource requests, a new option called partial approval is available where resource managers can choose to filter based on a date by either changing the start date or the end date to approve or reject the first or last number of months, weeks, etc. For example, this will allow the manager to approve the first 3 months or the last 3 months of the request, instead of approving the full request at one time. Once the partial request has been approved or rejected, the outstanding timeframe that has not been approved or rejected will still show as a pending request. Let's walk through this within Tempus. Let's navigate to the resource request tile. Then from here, I'm going to open a pending request that I have. And the first thing you should notice is that we now have this partial approval option. So if you click on here, you'll see the start and end date options here, and the start date will be the first date of the entire duration, and the end date will be the last date of the duration of the request. From here, you'll be able to select either the start date or the end date. So let's say I wanted to just do the first 3 months of this request. I can go ahead and change December to March, and then I can hit apply, and the duration will change from January to March. From here, you can either select another resource from below to change the allocation to them, or you can go ahead and approve or reject this request as is. So I'm going to go ahead and hit approve here for apply changes. And then what you'll notice is that you'll still have a pending request because there's still more of the initial request that needs to be taken action upon. So now if I open this request again, I'll now notice that it's from April to the end of December. From here, you can again either choose partial approval, update the start date or the end date, apply it, and then update the data, or you can just take this whole request, either approve, reject it, or put it on another resource. So from here, I'm just going to reject this. And now if I go into the project, we can take a look at how this will look within the project. So if I go to the allocations area, I can make sure that my heat map for resource request is enabled. And from here, you can see what happened in the request. So let's go to month mode. And from here, you can see the first 3 months are green, meaning that they were approved. And then the last months were not approved or rejected, and they were reverted back to the data that was there previously to the request. Within 9.3, we have added more capabilities to team resources. This includes the ability to import team resources via an Excel resources import, the ability to import team resource members onto the team resources with their inclusion percentages. In the bulk project allocation flat grid, you can now view the individual resource allocations on team resources when grouping by a resource attribute. Also, team resources are available within What If modeling, Insight Plus, and advanced reporting. Let's walk through some of these within Tempus. So the first thing you may notice when you log in is this new icon on the resource management tile. This now will show you the number of your team resources and added an icon as well for you to denote between team resources and regular resources. Another area that we improved upon for team resources is within the bulk allocation flat grid. So we've added an option called Show Team Assignments, which is available if you're grouping by a resource attribute. So what this will do is when you're grouping by a resource attribute, like resource name, for example, when you expand out the grouping, it'll now show you the name of the team that the resource is assigned to and their allocation assigned to that team. So you can go to time, you can go to FTE to see the different granularity of how they're assigned to that team. This is a read-only field and will not be editable in this screen. To edit this, you would need to go back into the team within resource management and update their inclusion percentage. Another area that we've made changes to for team resources is within the data sync area. Within Excel, you can now import team resources within the resources import. So now if I open up my resource import file, you will now see that there is an area for team resource, team start date, and team end date, as well as you can include the team name here as well. So this will create the new team resources, and you cannot assign any capacity for that team. This is just to import the team as including their start and end dates. Additionally, we've also made an update to the assignment import where you can now import your team resources as well. So you can put in the team resource name under resource, put in the task that they should be assigned to, and all of the other required information, and put in their allocations to import as normal, other than it being a team resource and not an individual resource. Lastly, we added this team resource members option here for an import. This allows you to import the team resource members onto the teams, including their inclusion percentages. So from this template, you can provide the resource name, which is the team resource, the unit that you want the percentage to be a part of, and then the team member that they should be assigned to the team. So for example, because this is a week, the week starting the 10th of February, this resource will be 20% assigned to team A once you import this into Tempus. Another area that we made updates to for team resources is in Tempus What If. So now if you open up a model, you will now see your team resources within the bottom grids and also within the top grid here as well. Within version 9.3, we've added some updates to financials. We added the ability to import financials via Excel into the project financials area. We added a new data set within project financials, which is called planned actual forecast. Project milestones are now available to be viewed within the project financials grids. And lastly, planned actual budget and forecast grand totals are available to be brought in as columns within project management, the single project allocation grid, BPA flat grid, and the project management area of view management. Let's walk through some of these within Tempus. One main update that we made for financials is within the imports area. So if I go to admin settings, data sync, Excel, you'll now notice that there's a financials area to import your financials for your projects. If you go ahead and download your financials template, you'll be able to see what you'll need to enter. So you'll want to enter in the project name, the category, the type, so planned, actual, forecast, budget, the time period, the import behavior, and then you'll want to enter in either the date range, or if you're using project as a time period, you can enter in your project cost within this column. If you're using month, for example, you will want to make sure you put the months within this area and then add the financial data within this area as well. If we go into the financials area of a project, there are some other updates as well. So first, we added this planned, actual, and forecast data set where you can see your data for your planned, actual, and forecast all in one place. Additionally, we added this feature where it'll snap to your current date instead of the start of your financials data set. So because even though I have July 2023 as my start date here, this opened up to January 2025 because this is the current month. Additionally, we've also added the capability to see milestones within the grid. So if I go into my milestones area here, and I just create my milestone for today, you should now see the milestone on today's month. Once you hover over it, you should see a hyperlink. You can click on it and it'll open up to that milestone page. Another update that we've added for financials is within the project management grid as well. So now you can go ahead and bring in your financial grand totals. So you could do actuals, budgets, forecasts, or planned, and you can bring these all within your grid to see the grand total for each of these items. This is also available within the single project allocation area and a bulk project allocation flag grid. Next, I wanted to go over the new general settings that we've added within 9.3. If I go to Admin Settings and General Settings, in the Global tab, we've added the Danish krona to cost currency. Additionally, we have moved the capacity out of bounds indicator to be a general setting instead of under options within a project or in BPA flat grid. If it's on for the entire environment. If it's off, it will be off for the entire environment. Under unit settings, we've added this enable resource threshold validation, where the administrator can choose which data set they would like the threshold to be in. Additionally, they can choose which capacity type they would like the threshold to be for. Within resource request, we've added an option to exclude projects from the resource request workflow. So from here, if this is turned on, you can then select a project attribute that you would like those projects to not fire or have any resource requests as part of the projects. So in my example here, any project that is proposal projects would not be able to have resource requests within that project. Within the Data Sync tab, we added the Use API External ID to match entity in Excel when ID is selected here. So you can again choose name to be in the identity match, ID, which would be the Tempus ID, or you can check this box to use the API External ID. And we have updated all of the different templates to abide by this as well. So you can now use the API External ID field within Tempus to match as the primary key. Within the Miscellaneous tab, we have added this option to disable the feedback form. So this would be found within this here. When this is turned on and hit save here, that form will now be hidden from the question mark area. Within the heat map area, we have added an option to gray out demand planning resources. So when this is enabled, demand planning resources will have a gray heat map instead of the one based on your heat map overlay threshold percentages. Or you can go ahead and disable the heat maps for demand planning resources as well, and then they would just have a white background. Additionally, if you have that global setting of enable for decimal places, in the heat map area, you can select to put up to 4 decimal places within the heat map area. Next, I want to discuss some additional features that have been added to 9.3. One of the new features is dark mode. So now if you come up here, you'll see that there's a little moon icon. If you click on that, it'll change Tempus into a dark mode. Next, if you go into resource management, and go into net availability, we made some updates here as well. First, you can now add new views. Additionally, you can sort on your columns within this grid. And then lastly, we've added the allocation percentage, which is your allocation divided by capacity. This is also available within the bulk project allocation screen, but you can also see it here now as well. Another option that we've added is within the single project allocation screen. So now if I come into my allocations area, you can now see we removed the actual word here. So now it just says start end dates are required for allocations. Additionally, we have added this quick filter here where you can choose how you want to populate your start and end dates. So if you want to do current year, you can just select current year instead of selecting the date manually within the start and end date areas. Additionally, we have added skills into the single project screen. So if you go to insert columns here and you scroll to the bottom of the list, your skill data will show here that you can bring into the grid. We've also made an update in Scribe. So now if you type your message, it'll now show at the very top of the screen instead of starting at the bottom. And now if you type another one, it'll be below the first message. So it will start from top to bottom. We've also added an option within the cross-project allocation screen to view your planned or actual information. And that's all that is in this single project screen for now. Next, within the file management area, we have added an option to overwrite your existing files. So if I upload a file that has the same name, it'll now ask you if you want to overwrite the data. So now that I already have this financials in here, it'll say following files will be overwritten. Do you want to proceed? Within the resource request area, we have added some more features as well. So first, you'll notice that there's a new start and end date option here. This is to filter by the assignment date of your request. So if I can go to resource name, start date, end date. So anything between, the 1st of January to the 12/31/2025 will now show within the grid based on my filter up here. And you can also choose how you want to display this. If you do the next 3 months, the next 3 years, it'll show you all the data that has an assignment start and end date within that time frame. Additionally, we've added this delta options in here. So you can see delta total time, delta total cost, total FTE or man days. And what this does, it'll take the requested time minus the existing total time. The next area I want to discuss is sheet templates. So if I go back to admin settings and go to my sheet templates area, we've now added this option to choose your default view. So if I go ahead and edit one of these templates, I can choose the default view to be grid or list view. So now if I go into one of my sheets, you'll now see that that will now open to list view. Next area I want to talk about is timesheet settings. So previously we had timesheet settings all on one page. Now we have split these into different areas and like areas. So global option here, global tab is where you can see all the options that are very commonly used. So this would include write weekend data into the work week, save project timesheets to project actuals. If you want to use the self-service timesheet flag, those are all options within this area. Unit settings is where you can choose what units you want to see within the timesheets. So this would be the week start, the non-working days, the dominant unit, and then your active units that are within the timesheets. Additionally, the next one is grid options. These are all of the options that your timesheet users or timesheet approvers can use within the options area within their timesheets. Project details will show all the project information on the timesheet. So for example, show project attributes, show assignment attributes. Reminders and approvals is to show the different approval processes or reminders. So you can now choose to select how many days after or before the timesheet ends for your timesheet notifications, project owner approval, auto approve for resources, and then allow assignment requests for projects are all within this area. Requirements is where you can set up your minimum or maximum hours per timesheet or per day, and if you want any mandatory notes for projects. And lastly, your heat map area is where you can set up your heat map threshold hours for your timesheet audit report. Within report management, we did make some updates to the report access screen. So now you'll see this looks a little different. We've just updated the UI here. Additionally, within Pivot Grid, we've added the ability to have time-phased calculated measures based on project or resource attributes. So, for example, I have this precision project attribute times your planned allocation time within my calculated measures. And then I put it into my measures area, and you can now see that even though I have my date information here, you can see that it's still populating information. So this is brand new in 9.3. Additionally, in snapshots dimensions, we have changed how the measures work a little bit. So now within planned allocation, for example, you can now see that we separated the snapshot data with the current data. Previously, it was all within one data set or measure. Now you can choose whether or not you want to see that current data as well. And then lastly, we have added those resource request delta measures into this pivot grid as well. So if I go to resource requests, planned assignment requests, you'll now see the delta information as well within the pivot grid that you can report on. The last thing I want to mention is the audit log. So now if you go into the audit log, we now have this expand all option. So instead of having to manually go in and click the different areas that need to be expanded, you can just click this expand all, collapse all option, and it'll automatically expand everything. This concludes our preview of 9.3. Thank you for watching. Please don't hesitate to reach out to support@prosymmetry.com for any questions about version 9.3. We look forward to hearing from you soon.